good evening poem. Students, today we are going to do the poem Do Not Ask of Me My Love, written by Faiz Ahmed Faiz. Faiz Ahmed Faiz students, we are told, was an intellectual, a revolutionary poet, a journalist, political leader, like a trade unionist, a multifaceted personality. So we are studying one of his poems, the title of which is Do Not Ask of Me My Love. Now, naturally students, the poem is addressed to his beloved, and what he does not want his beloved to ask, there is a lot of mystery in that title, we can say, because what exactly is he telling her? So at the same time, students, the title is an intriguing one because you want to read the poem and find out what exactly he does not want his beloved to ask him. So the first two lines again, like the first line, the repetition of the title, do not ask of me my love, that love I once had for you. That means, students, the poet is here suggesting that he loved his beloved more earlier. He could give her more attention, but now it's no longer so. Why did it happen like that? Because students, we always study that in this world where they say, everything is transient, probably love is, the only permanent thing. Love is eternal. People say love does not perish, love does not dwindle. Come what may, love is always there till the end. Then why is the poem saying that to his beloved? Do not ask of me my love, that love that I once had for you. Okay, so what has made his love to, probably he is suggesting that he cannot demonstrate his love in the same way, he cannot give her that attention. Okay, so first he starts by speaking about the life of, his youthful life, and what was the importance of love in his life at that time. So he says, there was a time when life was bright and young and blooming. Okay, so definitely students, many people say youth is the best part of life. Okay, when things have started to take shape, you are coming to understand the essence of life. You are looking forward for your dreams and aspirations. Yes, you are ready to take on life. Okay, so that is youth, full of energy, freshness, okay, dreams, goals, etc. So he speaks about his youth when life was definitely bright, blooming, okay, and then he says, at that time, and your sorrows was much more than any other pains. So apparently, students, the poet was probably the lucky ones who did not have probably many miseries in his life. So for him at that time, if you could say sorrow, it was the pain of his beloved. Yes, see, when you love someone, that person's sadness rubs on you. It's not just about romantic love, in your whichever relation, maybe even your parents, you love them. So when you see them sad or in despair or, upset about something, you also feel sad. And, you feel, I wish I could remove that sadness from their lives. So similarly, as students, the poet suggests, for him, sadness means the pain of his beloved. If she is unhappy, she is, in some kind of despair, then he would feel very sad, and he considered that something to be very tragic and felt very bad about it. Then he goes on to say, your beauty gave the spring everlasting youth. Spring season, students, that season when, nature is in all its glory. Yes, and nature is ready with all its bounty. Yes, so the most beautiful season. And of course, many writers and poets have compared the beauty of their lady love to the spring season. But our poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz goes one step further and says that her beauty surpasses the beauty of spring season, because he says she is the one, his beloved is the one who lends her beauty and youth to spring season. Okay, that's how he puts it, where he's suggesting definitely students, spring season, it always comes with a new freshness. Yes, it is never something that is old or something that has faded away. It will always come with a lot of novelty and freshness. So his beloved, it seems, is the one who has given her freshness and youth to the spring season, suggesting that she is even more beautiful in the spring season. And then he says, your eyes were everything, all else in vain. All else in vain were of no use. They were futile for him. You know, students, for him, if there was any reason for his life, or it was the beauty of his beloved, the eyes, the most expressive feature of her face. So as speaking about his beloved's eyes, getting lost in those eyes, that was the meaning his life had. So you can see, students, he speaks about the intensity of his love. He speaks about her intense beauty. Yes, and he is apparently he's mesmerized by her beauty. Yes, and for him, when we read the stanza, we get a feeling for him, love is life and life is love. There is nothing beyond that. It is a very simple, restricted kind of life where he finds his pleasures through his beloved and he achieves it from her. So nothing is like inaccessible for him. So a near perfect life. Okay? Then, students, the poet goes on to say, when you are with me, I thought the world was mine. Definitely, students, when his beloved was there, apparently, she endowed him with some kind of power and strength. She made him feel that, he was, everything was perfect. Life was going the way he had wanted it to go. He had expected it to go. He was looking at life with rose-tinted glasses, where everything was beautiful. Life was beautiful. The world was a beautiful place. And of course, the beloved was always by his side to, give him that strength and power. It was as if he was ruling his life. Nothing was beyond his control. There was nothing about which he had to fret or worry. So this was his vision. This was his perception about life. Then he goes on to say, though now I know it was an illusion, a misunderstanding. So what, it comes quite abruptly. That is why, by speaking about, on those lines about life and his beloved, he suddenly says, no, I realized that all this was a misunderstanding. Why? Then he explains, that's the way I imagine to be, for there are other sorrows in the world than love and other pleasures too. So as I explained earlier, students, he led a very restricted kind of life. Okay, so in his personal life only, he sought the pleasure. Okay, he admired and appreciated what was in very close quarters to him and in his life. But now he has extended the frontiers of his life. He has broken those barriers, and now the world has become his life. And he realizes that he had this misunderstanding. It was a misconception that you can get pain and pleasure only through your near and dear ones. In fact, in this wide world, there are many things that deserve your attention and that can give you pain as well as pleasure. So what are those things? So in the coming stanza, students, he enumerates those issues of the world which he thinks are matter of concern. So the first thing he talks about is, he says, woven in silk and satin and brocade, those dark and brutal curses of countless centuries, bodies bathed in blood and smeared with dust. Now what is he talking about? Okay, so he says woven in silk, satin and brocade. Silk, satin and brocade, all these are rich cloths. Okay, he's talking about. So the rich cloth, and then he speaks about curse, and then he speaks about bodies which are covered with dust and blood. Here he is war. Okay, he does not see some any kind of glory in war. He sees the ugliness of the war, and that is why he specifically describes the bodies of those martyrs, of those soldiers which are brought. Definitely, students, as they are martyrs, they are covered with rich cloth, kind of decorated. Okay, but the poet here says, just lift that cloth, and what you see beneath is a very unpleasant kind of sight, because the body is covered with blood and dust. Okay, here the poet is talking about the miseries that war brings in its fold. He calls it a curse because war, the enmity, the ill feeling, the hatred, yes, it lingers for centuries together. Generations together have to face the brunt of these ill feelings, which takes the form of war. Okay, so he is speaking about the ugliness, the death, the gloom, the destruction, the misery, okay, and the despair, all that war brings in its fold. Okay, after that, students, he speaks about soul from marketplace to marketplace. He is speaking about the practice of slavery, where human beings are bought and sold like commodities. Yes, indignities are heaped on them, they are humiliated. This is he speaking about slavery, which is also the reality of present times. Then he says, bodies risen from the cauldron. Cauldron is a huge pot of disease. That means, students, the numerous diseases that are there in this world, the number of people who are infected by them, and their sufferings. Many of them may be rendered, they may become bedridden. Some may be maimed because of these diseases. Some may have to, some may die. So, the number of disease epidemics which infect man. Then he speaks about pus dripping from festering wound. Students, festering, a wound. Supposing he speaks about festering sores. Sores means a wound. Supposing someone gets a wound and it is not nursed properly, then after a few days you see pus starts coming from that wound. So it's very painful, and more than anything else, it's a very unpleasant sight. Yes, and you may want to turn your eyes from something when you see pus coming from a wound. It's not something pleasant. Most of us, we want to turn away. We don't want to look at it. Okay, because it's a very ugly sight. But the poet says, my eyes must also turn to this. So he is purposely saying that. That means, students, my eyes should not only be for beauty and admiring beauty. My eyes should also look at the ugly side of life. Yes, should accept that the ugliness and the miseries of this world. Here, students, the poet says that he wants to live his life as a citizen of this world, not just as somebody's lover. Okay, and that is why he says that I know this path that I have chosen. If I become the citizen of the world, life will not be beautiful and perfect like earlier times, but I know I still have to look at it. I have to do something about it. Okay, so to understand this point better, students, in life is, the circumstances that come in our life, and it is also about the choices that we make in course of circumstances. Remember, any choice is also accompanied by, the choices of life are also accompanied by duties and responsibilities, and you have to do complete justice to those duties and responsibilities. So, like you know, students, Mahatma Gandhi, whom we call as a father of the nation, okay? But the question to be asked is, was he the best father to his biological children? Probably not. Maybe he must have failed in many of his duties and responsibilities towards them. But he had to sacrifice. Yes, he had to strike a compromise for the greater good, okay, for the greater task of working for mankind. And this is definitely something Mahatma Gandhiji or all those great people who worked for the welfare of human beings must have realized. But as you know, students, this is the choice they had made. You cannot have the best of both the worlds. It's either your personal life, your personal relation, or you work for the greater cause, a greater cause for welfare of fellow human beings, help them through their miseries, hold their hands, embrace mankind with all their difficulties. Okay, so this our poet here also has chosen the second part. That means he has decided to work for the cause of humanity. As I told your students, it is a matter of choice. Whatever choice you make, you can't have both. So the other will suffer on account of it. Just like in his case, maybe his earlier life, as I told you, where his beloved was his priority. She was the only one who lended meaning to his life. She was the one through whom he got a lot of pleasure. And of course, sometimes students, seeing her suffer, he felt, this is the greatest suffering of life. But then, when he faced the stark, harsh realities of life, that is how he describes some of the miseries of life in all its darkness, in all its cruelty, in all its brutality, in all its ugliness, to show us the ugliness of these issues, and also telling us that he feels that he has to also pay attention to these things. Okay, and then finally, students, he says, "You are beautiful, my love, but I am helpless too." Please understand, students, again, he is again telling her, it's not that your beauty has faded, you're as beautiful as ever, but I am helpless. That's a very interesting line. When the poet says he's helpless, why is he helpless? Because he has made a choice. And when you make a choice, you have to live by it. Yes, you cannot give up on your choice when you see the kind of havoc it can create in your personal sphere. Similarly, the poet has realized probably he cannot love his beloved the way he did earlier. But then, as a pre-warning, that is, he's telling her that, see, from now on, don't expect the same love from me or the same attention from me. Earlier, you were the focus, the center of my existence, but after this, it will no longer be so. And then he says, for there are other sorrows in the world than love and other pleasures too. I told you, students, from now on, maybe for the poet, helping a fellow human being who is undergoing some misery for no fault of his. Yes, because of some cruel quirk of fate, or due to some kind of man-made, miseries like war, slavery, etc. So he wants to help these people, and that is why he says, and probably get contentment and satisfaction in his life through that, by helping fellow human beings. And sufferings, that means, students, that empathy with people who suffer. Yes, and that can also come as a sadness in his own life, to understand their sufferings and feel the depth of it. So he says, for there are other sorrows in the world than love and other pleasures too. So again, and finally, students, that is why he says, do not ask of me, my love, the love that I once had for you. So this is, students, the basic explanation of the poem. And I will conclude this video here, but in our next video, when we discuss the question answers, we can also go into detailed analysis of many aspects of the poem. Okay, so thank you, students. Take care, stay home, stay safe.